Good morning and good afternoon, everyone. Hello, Heine P. in Ho-Chunk. I'm coming from the homelands, traditional homelands of the Pueblo people here in Albuquerque, New Mexico on the SIPI campus. I'm working on a detail here. I'm a program analyst in the Office of Research, Policy, and Post-Secondary. My job is to oversee 33 tribal colleges and universities across the country. And today we are having the Department of Interior Tribal College and Universities webinar, Roadmap to a Career at the Department of the Interior. And this is not just for TCU students, but for all students, recent graduates, and any people from a diverse background that is interested in applying or having an internship or working at the DOI. Yesterday, we had a full day and we heard from Secretary Holland, Directors Tony Dearman from the Bureau of Indian Education, and Director Daryl LeConte from the Bureau of Indian Education. We had some great sessions, one on mission critical occupations, internship opportunities in DOI, and navigating USA jobs, which I even found more interesting because they've added some different things, pieces to it. So I like that. I found that really interesting. Today, we will have a variety of sessions, and the agenda is found in the chat if you want to look at it. And I think that it's important for all of us to look at what is offered here. And it's your way to have a place at the table. I felt growing up, I grew up on the Rosebud Reservation, and I felt that in education, I didn't see myself. So I went to school and became a teacher and the principal. And then I grew to love the tribal college movement. I attended Santeglaxca University when I was younger and at the start. And I found it to be a perfect place to start. I really believe our tribal colleges and universities are a viable option for young Native students. And even as they transition to mainstream colleges and universities, I think it's a great place. So in doing that, I was able to find my perfect position that I have now working with the tribal colleges and universities. And not only that, but I'm able to work with other agencies within DOI. So I'm very fortunate. I've developed MOUs with National Park Service and the Boys and Girls Club of America, and they have MOUs with Park Service. And I think we can connect in a lot of different ways in our positions and also have that say on how Native people are affected out in Indian country. So join us today as we show you some ways that you can have a career at DOI. And this morning, I would like to introduce a former supervisor of mine, and he now works at the Bureau of Indian Affairs. He is the Deputy Director of Field Operations. I'd like to introduce Bart Stevens.
Good morning, or Dagote, as they say in Apache land. I'm an enrolled member of the San Carlos Apache tribe, where I was born, but I grew up in Fort Duchesne, Utah, or my mother's side, so I am Northern Ute. And there we say, Maikwas Pawum. Good morning, people, my people. So with that, I'm honored to be here today to share with you a little bit about my perspective, my role, and what I do at the Bureau of Indian Affairs. I joined the federal government 16 years ago, with the BIE. I was a school principal in northeastern Utah in the public school system, and I came back to serve Indian people. And that's the kind of the underlying message from me, is serving Indian people as Indian people. I know my preferred way of describing us as Native Americans, but of course, within Indian Affairs, that's what we are, is Indian Affairs. So I joined the Bureau of Indian Education as an education line officer, and then quickly became a senior executive and became the deputy bureau director for school operations. Bounced around a little bit, did a good chunk of my career there, and then I came to the BIA. Crossed over, as they say, and started out as a regional director, another senior executive position, and then, well, started off as a superintendent, which is not a senior executive position, out at my home agency, UNTONORA agency, and then now I am the deputy bureau director on the BIA side. I know of no one else that has done the deputy bureau role on both the BIE and the BIA, so I'm a little proud of that. But nonetheless, my message today is for you all, you as students, you as potential candidates to our positions that we have, and we do have a lot of positions within the BIA. We have 4,500 employees positions, and a percentage of those are vacant. We definitely have a need for subject matter expertise, but we also have what I like to call a need for candidates that are trainable, that we can hopefully provide through our individual development plans, which is your training plan when you enter federal government, to identify areas that you want to improve upon and set some goals for yourself to advance, to grow in the organization, hopefully become a deputy bureau director or the director of the BIA. And there are different things that align to that on how we get there, and you as candidates need to understand. I was on yesterday for a while and heard the different things talking about USA staff. Well, it's not USA staffing, it's USA jobs. On our end, it's USA staffing when we go through the selection process, and what we do when we see the qualified candidates hit our certificate of eligibles when we make those selections for employment. And my message right off the bat when hearing all that is I encourage you all to be patient. I saw in the chat that somebody referenced it takes 6 months to a year. It could, but it shouldn't. And we're doing everything on our end to shorten that span. We certainly want those highly qualified candidates that apply for our positions to be selected quickly and be onboarded as quickly as we possibly can. And we're making great strides in improving that. We're seeing that time shorten significantly. So be patient, and it'll be well worth the time that you wait, albeit short, hopefully, to join federal service and begin doing the things that I'm going to talk about here next. One thing that I didn't hear mentioned, and I might have missed it, was Indian preference. Within Indian Affairs, we do have Indian preference, which means members of federally recognized tribes and are qualified for the position get on an Indian preference cert. And those are the certificates. I'm using jargon, and I told myself I wasn't going to do that, so I want to explain terms. The certificate of eligibles that we get is an Indian preference certificate. In it, it has the list of qualified candidates that applied for the position, and it's from that roster that we go through the process of interviewing and reference checking and resume analysis and so forth to drive our decision making, and then ultimately select the candidate for that position. We also have a non-Indian certificate of eligibles, and we don't really look at that until we have exhausted, or that if there's not any qualified Indian candidates. So I want to make everybody aware of that on how Indian Affairs operates. And I like that because my mantra is that, and my goal is to not be the BIA of our grandfathers. And many have heard me say this before, and I stand by that. We want to be aligned shoulder to shoulder with the tribes that we serve, and not let statutes, regulations, or policies and procedures stand between us, but yet let's stand shoulder to shoulder and look at those and see how we can work through what we need to get done, and still follow the guidance, the statutes and regulations and policies that are in place, because we certainly have to do that. But I want you all to see this great information that we're presenting as an opportunity to impact Indian country. I was born in San Carlos. I lived in tribal housing. I lived off commodities. My parents were not college educated. And like we've heard yesterday, I didn't know there were federal opportunities until it was brought to my attention by one of my relatives to get back to serving Indian students. And that's why I joined the BIE in 2005. And this is your opportunity to do the same. I think, we hear a lot, especially in this day and age, in this climate of the old adage of bossing Indians around. And we are not that. We are one, as I said, looking to empower tribes, support their Indian self-determination, to manage their affairs, to manage their programs, and provide resources, guidance, and assistance to do just that. But ultimately, it's up to us to make a difference. When I was in education at BIE, and even prior to that, I proclaim I am not a bureaucrat. I am an Indian man, culturally aware, practice what I do in our native communities, and very much enmeshed in that arena. And we are now at a point where we bring that mindset into Indian affairs, again, to drive our decision making and what's best for the tribes that we serve. I always picture in my mind my friends, my relatives, my cousins, my aunts and uncles, and everybody that is impacted by the decisions that I make. And when you think of that as that opportunity, again, to get back to serving and being a good steward of the government to empower and enrich the lives of our relatives. And I think that is where we're at now, and where we will continue to strive to be more like that. I think it's an opportunity also for you all to get in the system and make a difference. Accept those challenges, not just by making your family and relatives proud that you're at a level where you are impacting the nation, the region, or the agency, or wherever you join the federal government, but you also bring those new ideas, those new perspectives on not just from the communities of where you're at now in the college communities, but also in your home communities, those of your grandparents that you've seen maybe some things that weren't happening so in the past. I take that, Kat, as my time is running out. Let me wrap it up. I have a lot to say, but again, Google me, get my email address. If you have any questions for me, I have an open door policy. Reach out to me. I'm more than willing to have a one-on-one discussion with anyone to promote the activities that we're doing here today. But thanks for having me, and I'll leave it at that. You all have a good rest of the day.
Thank you so much, Bart. And he is true to his word, because I have reached out to him from our bureau, and he has helped us too. So we work across agencies. Next on board, we have Carrie Newman from the Bureau of Safety and Environmental Enforcement, and she's going to talk about hiring authorities. Carrie?
Thank you very much. I am Carrie Newman, and I work with HR within the Bureau of Safety and Environmental Enforcement, which is a bureau within the Department of the Interior. And so I'm going to talk about special hiring authorities, but also want to talk a little bit about Indian preference and give you some more information on what it is, how it's applied, and how you can take advantage of it if you're eligible for Indian preference. So with Indian preference, it's afforded to positions in Indian Affairs in the Department of the Interior, as well as in the Indian Health Services and the Department of Health and Human Services. For the Department of the Interior, then, that's going to apply to all positions within the Bureau of Indian Affairs and the Bureau of Indian Education, as well as certain positions within the Bureau of Trust Funds Administration, the Assistant Secretary for Indian Affairs, and a handful of positions within the Office of the Secretary. So the determination for that is going to be whether or not those positions primarily and directly relate to the provision of services to Indians. Okay, so to be eligible for Indian preference, you have to be part of one of 4 categories. First, it would be individuals who are a member of a federally recognized Indian tribe. Secondly, would be those who are descendants of a member and were residing within the present boundaries of any Indian reservation on June 1st of 1934. Those who possess 1/2 degree of Indian blood derived from tribes that are indigenous to the United States, or finally, those who are Alaskan natives. Okay, if you're applying to a position on USA Jobs and Indian preference applies to that position, you'll see the below symbol in the hiring path. And I know we've gone over hiring paths in a couple of the previous presentations. The hiring path for Native Americans is going to have this circular symbol with a sun in the middle. It says Native Americans, American Indian, or Alaskan Native. In order to verify your eligibility for Indian preference, you have to submit a completed and signed Form BIA 4432, which is a verification of Indian preference for employment in the Bureau of Indian Affairs and the Indian Health Service. The form's available on the BIA.gov website. And this is what the form's going to look like. So depending on the eligibility category that you're claiming, you'll have to have that portion of the form completed. So for example, if you're claiming eligibility based on being a member of a federally recognized Indian tribe, band, or community, you want to provide this form directly to your tribe and have them verify that you are a member of the roles. So they'll need to verify that and sign this form. And in some cases, they'll need to also provide the form to the Bureau of Indian Affairs to have them sign as well. So then they'll return the form to you and you want to keep it on file so that you can submit it whenever you apply for a position that has Indian preference applied to it. Okay, so how does Indian preference work? How's it applied? In hiring, Indian preference is considered to be absolute. Which means that if any candidate with Indian preference is found to be qualified for the position, no non-Indian preference candidates can be considered. So this applies to Indian preference positions for initial hiring into the government, for reinstatement, for reemployment, but also to internal actions for those Indian preference eligible positions. So transfers or reassignments or promotions within your current agency. Consideration for non-Indian applicants is only made in the absence of any qualified Indian preference eligible candidate. Okay, so how does this relate to veterans preference? Indian preference has been determined to take precedence over veterans preference when filling a position for which Indian preference applies. So once those Indian preference requirements are met, veterans preference is applied at that point. So I've included here a potential referral order for an Indian preference position if it's being advertised all sources. So first, the hiring official would receive a referral certificate of candidates who are eligible for selection that would include only Indian preference eligible veterans. So those with Indian preference who have veterans preference as well. If there are no such individuals identified, they would receive a certificate of Indian preference eligible candidates who do not have veterans preference. If no Indian preference candidates are identified and qualified for the position, at that point they can include, the hiring office can consider non-Indian preference candidates. So depending on the type of announcement, they may receive only veterans who don't have Indian preference, or they may receive everybody who's qualified. Excuse me, when Indian preference candidates receive an appointment and they're new to the federal government, they're appointed under an accepted service appointment authority under Schedule A. These appointments are subject to a 2-year trial period, which is a time during which the supervisors are evaluating employees before finalizing their federal employment. And employees who receive an appointment under this authority are converted to competitive service positions after 3 years of continuous satisfactory service. And at that point, they receive a career appointment, which allows for permanent reinstatement eligibility into the competitive service. So when we're talking about competitive service appointments versus accepted service appointments, what does that mean? So most positions within the executive branch of the government are in the competitive service. And so for those positions, selections are typically made using a competitive hiring process that's open to all applicants. And permanent employees in these competitive service positions are able to apply to merit promotion announcements for other federal positions and don't have to recompete against non-federal employees or be subject to veterans preference at that point either. Whereas employees in the accepted service or in accepted service appointments, the selection are made using approved exceptions to the competitive hiring process. And those employees are not going to be eligible to apply to merit promotion announcements that are only open to competitive service federal employees. Okay, so a merit promotion announcement. What does that mean? So it lets a current or former federal employee apply for a job without having to compete with the general public or people with veterans preference. Instead, you're primarily only competing against other federal employees. And so when an office is announcing a position, they have the option to announce it only merit promotion. So they'll only be considering those people with merit promotion eligibility, so current or former competitive service employees. But also there's categories of other people who can apply to merit promotion announcements as well. So it's going to include special hiring authorities that are included below. There's a number of special hiring authorities, but I'm going to go over a few that potentially could apply to you. And so to know who can be considered for an announcement, I know this was shown in the last presentation, but on USA Jobs, the position is going to show on the right-hand side, it says this job is open to, and it'll show the hiring paths that are available. So federal employees within the competitive service will be in most merit promotion announcements. And if the announcement has Indian preference, again, it's going to have this symbol for Native Americans. Okay, so how would Indian preference be applied to these merit promotion only announcements? So absolute preference is still applied. So still, if there are any eligible Indian preference candidates identified, they do have to be considered before anyone who's not eligible for Indian preference. But there's several possible referral methods that are going to be available to the supervisor and are used concurrently. So the first is going to be competitive merit promotion, and that's going to include candidates who are current or former competitive service employees, as well as certain veterans. And again, they will have to have Indian preference to be considered for the Indian preference positions. There's also the possibility of a non-competitive merit promotion referral. This will be for current or former competitive service employees who have already competed for the full performance level of the position, which is the highest promotion potential. So for example, if a position is a GS 5, 6, 7 career ladder, these people would have had to have already competed for a GS 7 position. But this is also going to include people who are eligible for non-competitive hiring authorities. And again, these eligibilities are going to have to be for people with Indian preference as well. And then finally, there's a referral certificate that's going to include only people eligible for Indian preference who do not meet any of the other merit promotion eligibility categories. And veterans preference is going to apply to this certificate. So it applies to that certificate, but it does not apply to the other two. So in that way, it is possible for a non-veteran Indian preference candidate to be selected over an Indian preference candidate without veterans preference, because the hiring manager is going to have the ability to choose from any of the referral certificates that they receive. Okay, and veterans preference is not going to apply to the first two options, the merit promotion. So once an Indian preference appointment is converted into the competitive service, the employee on that appointment then has the ability to apply to any merit promotion announcement that says it's for competitive service employees, and they can still apply to any Indian preference announcement as well and receive a new accepted service appointment. Okay, so what are some of the special hiring authorities that allow you to apply to merit promotion announcements? The first is a Schedule A appointment for individuals with disabilities. And so to be eligible for this type of an appointment, you'd have to be an individual with an intellectual disability, a severe physical disability, or a psychiatric disability. If you're selected under this authority, you'd be provided with an accepted service appointment that can be converted to the competitive service after 2 years of satisfactory service. And this is a complete non-competitive hiring authority. So it allows you to apply and be considered under merit promotion announcements, but you actually don't even have to apply to an announcement. The agencies have the ability to pick these individuals up without advertising a position. If you are eligible for a Schedule A appointment, in order to verify your eligibility, you'd want to submit a proof of disability letter stating that you have the disability, and the letter should come from and be signed by your doctor, another licensed medical professional, or possibly a government agency that issues or provides disability benefits. So the letter that they submit does not have to specify what your particular disability is, just that you have a disability and that you're eligible to be considered under this authority. There's also several special hiring authorities that apply specifically to veterans. First one's going to be a VEOA appointment, which is for Veterans Employment Opportunities Act of 1998. In order to be eligible for this type of an appointment, you would need to be a veteran eligible for veterans preference. Not all veterans receive preference. It depends on the time period that during which you served, whether or not you have a disability rating, or sometimes it depends on the types of badges and medals you may have received during their service period. So if you're eligible for preference, or you were separated from the armed forces after 3 or more years of continuous active service performed under honorable conditions, then you're eligible to apply under VEOA consideration. These appointments are made directly into the competitive service, and it's not a non-competitive hiring authority. You do have to apply to a merit promotion announcement to be considered. If you want to apply and be considered under this authority, you would have to submit either a letter from the Department of Veteran Affairs, which provides your level of service-connected disability, or a form DD-214, which is a certificate of release or discharge from active duty. And there's 2 portions circled on the form. The first is showing that the form you should submit is your member 4 copy. And that's the copy you'll want to submit because it includes your character of service, which would verify if your service was performed under honorable conditions, which is part of the requirements to be considered for this type of appointment. Another appointment type is a veterans recruitment appointment, or a VRA. And individuals who are eligible for this type of appointment include disabled veterans, veterans who have served on active duty during a war or a campaign or expedition for which a campaign badge has been authorized, veterans who, while serving on active duty, participated in a military operation for which an Armed Forces Service Medal was awarded, or recently separated veterans. So in this case, recently separated is going to mean within the last 3 years. This type of appointment can be used up to the GS-11, And it is an accepted service appointment that's converted to the competitive service after 2 years of satisfactory service. And this is a non-competitive authority. And so you do not have to apply to an announcement to be considered, but it does give you eligibility to apply to a merit promotion announcement. So again, with this, you'd need to submit either your letter from the Veterans Affairs, showing your percentage of service-connected disability, or the member 4 copy of your DD 214. Veterans who are at least 30% disabled, their disability rating is 30% or more, are able to be considered for an appointment as well. It's going to be a temporary, meaning less than a year, or a term appointment, so between 1 and 4 years in the competitive service. You are able to be converted to a permanent appointment at any time at your management's discretion. For this one, it's non-competitive, so it can be done outside of an announcement, or you can apply to a merit promotion announcement. For this, you do need to submit your letter from the Department of Veterans Affairs showing your percentage of disability, but you'll want to submit your DD 214 as well. And then there's also a eligibility for military spouses to apply to merit promotion announcements. In order to be eligible for this type of an appointment, you would need to be the spouse of an active duty member of the armed forces, the spouse of a service member who is 100% disabled due to a service-connected injury, or the spouse of a service member who was killed while on active duty. These are either temporary or permanent appointments in the competitive service. You are required to apply to a merit promotion announcement. Okay, to verify your eligibility to be considered for this type of an appointment, you would want to submit your documentation verifying your marriage to a service member. Typically, this would be your marriage license, as well as either a copy of your spouse's active military orders, a copy of their DD 214, or a copy of a DD 1300, which was a report of casualty. Okay, so those are just a few of the authorities you could potentially be considered for. I do see that there is some questions in the Q&A section, so let me address those. Is prior military considered a federal employee with reinstatement eligibility? It is not. It is not. You would have to be considered under one of those hiring authorities for veterans. Okay.
Hey, Carrie, this is Nicole. Here are some questions that came in during your session. It says, from what I understand, HR only accepts category A and D on the Indian preference form.
Well, so you're able to use any of they're all eligibilities. So if any of them apply to you, we accept any of them. Category B is for people who lived on a reservation in 1934. So I think it's, pretty unusual that somebody would be qualified for that and still seeking employment, right? But yes, you could be part of any of the categories.
Okay, and then there was another question. If selected for an interview, is it required for the disability to be discussed it keeps moving, at the time of the interview?
No, you don't have to disclose your disability, and it should not be discussed at your interview.
Okay, and then if hired under VRA, the applicant can be hired at the max of a GS-11. But does that mean that GS-11 is the highest level that position can be promoted to after the 2-year satisfactory time?
No, that is the highest level that the position can be filled initially, but the full performance level could be higher than that. You would just have to come in and start at the GS-11 level or lower.
Okay, I think that's all that I see in the question and answer section. Thank you.
Thank you, Carrie. That was a very interesting presentation. Now we will shift gears and talk about the benefits of federal employment. We have Deborah McAuslin, who's an HR specialist from the Office of Safety and Environmental Enforcement. Welcome, Deborah.
Thank you. Hello, my name's Debbie McAuslin, and I work for the Bureau of Safety and Environmental Enforcement under the Department of the Interior. I have been doing benefits for 18 years now, and will share with you the benefits available to you as a federal employee. There are many benefits available to you as a federal employee. They include federal health benefits, federal life insurance, the federal dental and vision plan, the flexible spending account, the federal long-term care insurance program, leave, flexible schedules, FERS, and TSP, and I'll go into each of them. Your federal employees' health benefits covers you for any medical appointments that you might have, any medical or physical ailments. As an employee, you are eligible for the federal health benefits. There are many different plans available to you. If you are hired into an appointment that is covered, that you are covered for health benefits for, you can sign up for those health benefits within 60 days of you coming on board. The health benefits are eligible as long as it's not excluded by law or by regulation. You are eligible for health benefits if you're full-time, temporary, seasonal, or an intermittent employee. You have 60 days from the amount when you start to sign up for the health benefits. You're eligible to enroll if you are hired on at least a 90-day appointment and you're going to work 130 hours during that 90 days. You're eligible to enroll. If you're hired on a 6-month appointment and you'll be working at least 130 hours during the first 90 days, you're also eligible. As an intermittent employee, you're eligible as long as you work 130 hours in at least the first 90 days. You'll receive government contributions as though you're a full-time employee. The government contribution is typically 70%, and we pay 30% as government employees. There is a federal employees handbook for health benefits. If anybody wants further details on the health benefits, you can find this on the OPM website. You have several different options when applying for health benefits. You can apply for self only, you can apply for self plus one, and you can apply for self plus family. Your self only plus your self plus family or your self plus one can include your spouse. It does not have to include your spouse, though. You can also use it for a child if you're not married, but you have a biological child, or a child that's a foster care child, or an adopted child, or a stepchild. You can cover those children until you're 26, until they are 26 years old. And the child does not have to live with you in order to be covered, but they can be covered until they're 26 years old. And if the child is married, they can still be covered under your insurance, but their family cannot be. If you have a child that is 26 and disabled, that child became disabled before the age of 26, then you can cover that child continuously after age 26 once you fill out the documents to show that that child was disabled before 26. After you leave the federal government, and we're not asking you to leave at all, we want you to come and work with us. There is temporary continuation of care. You can sign up for this temporary continuation of coverage after you separate, and it's good for 36 months. You would pay the monthly fee plus a 2% administrative fee in order to keep that coverage for up to 36 months. So as I said, you have 60 days from the date you come on board to sign up for the health insurance. It's one of the most valuable plans we have in the federal government. Everybody needs health insurance. They have been expecting people across the world to sign up for health insurance. So it's one of the most valuable tools you can have when you become a federal employee. We also have premium conversion, which is you pay your federal benefit on a pre-tax basis. So you would pay your federal health insurance premium pre-taxes. They would take it out of your gross income before you pay taxes, and you won't have to pay taxes on those premiums for the year. This is automatic when you become a federal employee. If you wanted to change that pre-tax basis, you can apply for conversion, and it won't be to your benefit. The pre-tax option is to your benefit. So you wouldn't pay taxes on that premium conversion at all. You could waive it, as I said. You need to fill out a form in order to waive that pre-tax conversion. And you could be on a pay period conversion plan. The only advantage to that is that you would be able to cancel your health insurance outside an open enrollment or outside a qualifying life event. So let me go over that for 1 minute. If you have a change in enrollment, if you get married, divorced, there's a death, you have a qualifying life event. That qualifying life event will allow you to change your insurance up to 60 days after that event, or 30 days prior to that event if you need to. If you do not have a qualifying life event, you can only change your health insurance during open season. Open season runs each year from November, the second Monday of November to the second Monday of December, with the effective date being in January. So you would be able to change from self-only to self and family to self-only at open season unless you have a qualifying life event. A lot of people coming on board also have children while they're working for the federal government, and the birth of a child is considered a qualifying life event. You have from 30 days prior to the event to 60 days after the event to add on a child. Now we'll talk about life insurance. Life insurance in the federal government, once you come on, you are automatically enrolled in the basic life insurance, which is your annual salary rounded up to the next $1,000 plus $2,000. You are automatically enrolled in that. It costs 16 cents per thousand to carry that insurance. You have 60 days from the date that you come on board to elect optional insurance. You do not need proof of insurability when you are first initially signed up for the life insurance. You have options in the life insurance where you can add. Option A is $10,000 additional. Option B is 1 to 5 multiples of your salary. And the salary is your annual salary rounded up to the closest thousand. You can choose 1 to 5 multiples. And then you have option C, which is your family coverage. You can choose 1 to 5 multiples on that as well. Excuse me. Your first option on option C is $5,000. And if you choose five times, it's $25,000 for your spouse. For your children, it's $2,500 for one multiple and $12,500 for 5 multiples. Your children are only covered until age 18 on this life insurance plan. And you do need to change your coverage if you do not have a spouse or you do not have children. This coverage does not automatically stop. You need to make the change yourselves. Next is your dental and vision plans. You're eligible to sign up for dental and vision as long as you're eligible for health insurance. So if you're eligible for health insurance, you can sign up for the dental and vision plans. You have 60 days from the date that you come on board to sign up for dental and vision. There are many different plans. Again, you can sign up in a self-only plan, a self+1, or a self and family plan. You can go onto the OPM website, and actually there's a comparison tool on that website that will show you how to compare the plans and see which options are best for you. The flexible spending account. Flexible spending account is a pre-tax option that you have. You can sign up for the flexible spending account 60 days after you come on board or before October 1st. Before October 1st is key. If you come on in September and October 1st comes, you will not be able to sign up for the flexible spending account. They do not have open enrollment from October 1st to December 31st. And unlike the other benefits that will continue automatically, flexible spending account, you must sign up for every year. So each year at open season, you will need to sign up for the flexible spending account. Flexible spending account is pre-tax dollars that you can put aside to pay for health insurance co-pays, health insurance co-insurance, deductibles. It will also cover you for dental and vision out-of-pocket expenses, so it will reimburse you. You can sign up for $2,750 for the health savings plan and $5,000 for the dependent care plan. So if you have childcare, you can put away $5,000 pre-tax money to take care of that federal dependent care charges. You can be reimbursed up to $5,000. This, when you go to sign up on FSAFeds.com, you put in the amount that you want to put away for the season, and it splits up the pay period amount. It will automatically divide it over 26 pay periods. There is also a limited health savings account. This is for people who sign up for the health savings account health benefits, where you put money away for your health care. The limited account lets you put pre-tax money away to cover those benefits as well. So under your limited health care plan, when you're enrolled in a high deductible health plan, you will also be able to put in for the flexible spending account. Under the dependent care plan, under the federal flexible spending account, your dependent must be 13 or under to be covered under that $5,000. Federal long-term care insurance program. The federal long-term care insurance program is a program that covers for in-home care or nursing home care. You need to sign up for that separate from the federal benefits, and there are no underwriting. There's no underwriting limitations if you sign up within the first 60 days. after 60 days, you do need to meet their underwriting conditions in order to be signed up for the plan. The plan is based on age. So you're going to pay premiums based on your age. So you need to look at the account and see how much you would pay based on the age when you sign up. This plan also covers your spouse, parents, children, anybody who's your family can be covered under the flexible long-term care insurance program. So your leave, when you become a federal employee, you have leave that you can use. Annual leave is given to employees initially 4 hours per pay period for the first 3 years. After the first 3 years, it's given to employees 6 hours per pay period. From 3 years to 15 years, it's 6 hours per pay period. And then after 15 years, you get 8 hours per pay period. And you can use that for vacation time or any type of time that you would take off that wouldn't be covered under sick leave. So most people, their leave category group is determined with military time. So if you had 4 years of military time and you came to the federal government, you would automatically be placed into group 2, which would be 6 hours per pay period. Now, your sick leave you use for personal medical appointments or care of family members or adoption purposes. We earn sick leave on a 4-hour per pay period basis. So you would earn 4 hours per pay period for sick leave. There is no accrual. There is no limited accrual on sick leave. You can accrue sick leave and have it carry on year to year to year. Under annual leave, most positions you are limited to 240-hour carryover time per year. So at the end of the year, you can only carry over 240 hours. Now there are work flexibilities. There are workplace flexibilities also in the federal government. People telework. There's also remote work. There's a combination of telework and working in the office. And then there's all kinds of flexi time. You can work compressed schedules. You can work maxi flex schedules where you have a core hour of time that you have to be at work, and then you can work around those times in order to meet your 80 hours per pay period to get paid. Now, the FERS retirement system. The FERS retirement system is a 3-tiered system. It's made up of FERS, which is a pension, and the federal government's one of the few agencies that give that pension. Most private agencies have gone away with pensions. There's the pension, there's Social Security, and there's thrift savings plan. It's a 3-tiered system. So Social Security, you have to be vested 40 credits, you're vested in Social Security. For the FERS system, you need to be a civilian employee for 5 years in order to be vested in that system. So 5-year vesting for the FERS retirement system. And then TSP, you put in money, it's just like a 401k, you're vested after 3 years, and your money and the government's money will go with you. Under the FERS plan, there's 3 different contribution rates. After 1/1/14, the contribution rate for employees is 4.4%. From 1/1/13 to 12/31/13, the contribution rate was 3.1. And before December 31st, 2012, the contribution rate was 0.8%. The reason I bring this up is because people talk about how much they pay into the retirement system, and there are 3 amounts that you pay into the system. The thrift savings plan is, as I said, like the 401k. It is, you put money in, the first 5%, you are matched by the government. The first 1 to 3% is matched dollar for dollar. The 4th and 5th percent is matched 50%, 50 cents on the dollar. You also get a 1% automatic basic enrollment that the government starts for you when you come on board. You can change the amount at any time during the pay period. The best way for you to be successful for retirement purposes is by starting to put into the thrift savings plan as soon as possible. We do not know how long Social Security is going to last. And so your thrift savings plan is going to be a key figure in when you go to retire. So the more money you can start putting in, the earlier, the better off you're going to be. And with that, I close, and are there any questions?
No, there are no questions. You explained it very well. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Deborah. That was really interesting. I wish I had that presentation when I started.
Yeah,
Thank you.
thank you.
Next up, we have Miss Ray Luckett, and she's a Deputy Regional Trust Director for the Bureau of Trust Funds Administration. I should know that. My brother works for them, but I'm always asking him. And she's going to give a presentation on the beneficiary trust kiosk. Welcome, Ray.
All right, my name is Ray. I'm with the Bureau of Trust Funds Administration. I've been with BTFA for about 7 years, but worked for the organization for more than 20. I am a Deputy Regional Trust Administrator. I work with the Northwest Alaska and Rocky Mountain regions. And I'm here with one of my colleagues, Mr. Justin Mariano, and I'll let him introduce himself.
Hi, everyone. My name is Justin Mariano, and I am the Fiduciary Trust Officer for the Palm Springs Agency in Palm Springs, California, as well as I manage the office, the BTFA office in Sacramento for the Pacific Regional Office there. I started my federal career 7 years ago with BTFA, and I've been in this particular position for a year and a half now. Prior to that, I was an auditor with BTFA with the Office of Trust Review and Audit, where we performed performance audits of tribes who compacted trust programs. So I've been there for a number of years. I still want to say that I'm kind of new there, but when I think about it, like 7 years is a long time. But I am also a member of the Navajo Nation, and I think that wraps up my introduction. So we'll go ahead and jump into the slides. And so what we'll go ahead and do also is hold off questions till the end. So let's go ahead and go to the next slide. Thanks, Ray. Okay, so who is the Bureau of Trust Funds Administration? So we were formerly known as the Office of the Special Trustee for American Indians, and that name change occurred, I believe, in October 2020. And so now we are the Bureau of Trust Funds Administration. And what we do is we essentially kind of act as a bank. And so what we do is that we manage the financial assets, whether that's land or particularly, actually, it's mainly money, trust money for tribes and for individual Native Americans who have these trust accounts with us. So we operate similar to a bank where we are receiving these funds. So any of these trust funds that come in for these account holders, we receive those funds and we put those into their accounts. What we also do is that we invest the funds. So we have an office specific for investing these these trust funds, and they work very diligently and maximizing the income that is generated from investing these, while also trying to be somewhat conservative and safe with these funds. Another thing that we do is that we disperse the funds. So if we have either a tribe or if we have a individual who contacts us and requests a disbursement, we also initiate those as well. And of course, maintaining the information where if there's an account holder or beneficiary who contacts us and they want to change their phone number, or if they've moved and they want to update their address, we will initiate those changes in our system. So these are pretty much the main functions that drive BTFA. But if we go to the next slide, we'll see the organizational chart for BTFA. So you'll see that, like I said, that the main functions is what we just kind of went over. We're just dispersing, investing, receiving, and managing. But as you can see here, that we also have trust records. So it's important to manage the trust records that we have with BTFA. We have the land buyback program, which has been ongoing for a couple of years now. We have the Office of Communication Policy and Training. So there's other components within BTFA that are, that support the organization. But what we're going to do today is we're going to highlight particularly trust operations and talk a little bit about what we do and what kind of positions that we have out in the field.
All right, thanks, Justin. So trust operations field, which both Justin and I work underneath, is comprised of 54 agency regional offices nationwide, all across Indian country. We do have 135 BTFA employees that are staffed throughout the field. Our field is the primary point of contact for beneficiaries who come in through our door. Most of the time we're located or co-located within a tribal building or a BIA building. Our field office maintains and builds those partnerships for our tribes and BIA. We also have our Trust Beneficiary Call Center, which is a high impact service provider that is responsible for taking calls for our nationwide call center. Our call center is available for beneficiaries to contact and ask questions on their IIM account, change their account information, get reprinted statements. And our call center is open Monday through Friday, 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. Mountain Time, and Saturdays, 8 a.m. to 12 noon. New to our office is the Trust Service Center, which was recently started. We are a virtual office in which BTFA field can send their overload support work to the Trust Service Center, as well as they help with our organizational priorities, most of those high-level projects that we're working on. Trust Funds Investments is our group responsible for investing the IIM funds. We have a number of financial analysts who work with investing, contacting tribes, seeing that support to get the maximum return for the funds held within BTFA. And so with that, what we've comprised here are some career ladder positions within trust operations field. We have an accounting tech entry level position, which is a GS for 5, 6, and 7. They are the individuals responsible for maintaining the trust fund accounts. They prepare paperwork that is responsible for receiving, dispersing accounts. They also speak one-on-one with beneficiaries to perform these functions. Our next level up is the trust accounts administrator position, and those are a GS 9, 11, 12, and they perform those complex functions and a team lead to manage the workload for the accounting techs. A lot of times we have functions that involve leasing, per capita payments. We actively look for whereabouts unknown. So the team lead is responsible for making sure that all of those functions get performed. Our next position we have identified here is the fiduciary trust officer at a GS 13, 14. And they are the primary point of contact for administration and relationship building with tribes in the area. They provide the agency office management. They authorize all the transactions within their authority and provide that supervisory support for their staff. And as it says here, a lot of times they may manage more than one agency office location. The next position is a deputy regional trust director at a GS 15. The deputy trust directors are responsible for supervising FTOs at different offices within assigned regions. Most of these regions are grouped in order to provide that full support for them. They also communicate the guidances and strategic goals for trust operations field. They get the field into the strategic priority planning and rolling out. And with that, shoot it back over to Justin.
Thanks, Ray. So speaking about priorities and strategic goals, one of the things that we wanted to highlight today that BTFA is doing is developing an interactive beneficiary kiosk prototype. And what is that? So what we are envisioning that this interactive beneficiary kiosk will do is that it will provide quality beneficiary services to our agency field offices that don't have the adequate sales coverage or internet connection, or maybe the internet connection is really slow, in areas or agencies that have a high walk-in traffic. So they're going to be there to support that and to connect our beneficiaries with our offices on a more at a higher quality, as well as on a more personal level, because this is interactive. I just wanted to point out that this is not going to be self-service. So it's not going to be something that is like, an ATM where you go and, draw out money. It's going to be interactive, meaning that, and you'll see in this, the upcoming slides, where a beneficiary will come to the kiosk and that they will initiate a video conference call with one of our BTFA agents, and there that they can discuss with the agent their needs or any inquiries that they're wanting at that time, whether that's that they want to initiate a disbursement, or if, like I was saying, that they want to change their contact information, or they're actually maybe following up with one of our correspondents where they're providing information to us. The kiosk will allow us to do that in a remote space, where, let's say that an available person and a live person in front of you is not available, you could do that with this kiosk here. So you'll still have that support as if you were face-to-face with someone, but it'll actually be through a kiosk. And so, our hope is that this will improve the beneficiary user experience. And also, some of the questions that we've had from our staff is that, is this supposed to replace the staff out in the field? And the answer is no. This is really just supposed to, again, enhance our ability to provide that service that we need to do out in the field.
All right, what we have here is a look at our beneficiary kiosk prototype. Our kiosk is fully enclosed it is ADA compliant. It can accommodate a full-size wheelchair. The beneficiary can enter the kiosk and have privacy while they discuss their trust assets with someone in our trust service center. Some of the features of the kiosk are HEPA air filters that keep the booth fresh and the air circulating. Outside of the kiosk are some white noise speakers that prevent, once the door is closed, it prevents anyone from outside the kiosk from overhearing the conversations within. On the back side of the kiosk is frosted glass to provide privacy. And on the door and front face of the kiosk is a smart glass panel. This smart glass panel, once closed, is activated and provides a frosted screen to provide added privacy. In addition to keeping with the safety of the kiosk, the UV lights are disinfecting. They do allow a clean environment without having to continuously wipe down those surfaces. And some other features noted on here are a slam-proof sliding door. It provides an airtight seal in order for that privacy, and sound dampening enclosures, which again, make sure that the person inside the booth relaying and asking questions is not overheard by anyone outside of the booth. Our next view here is the interior of the kiosk. There is a webcam. The individual beneficiary can speak with someone face-to-face via a video conference call. So they'll be able to see who they're talking to. With the larger 4K monitor, they're able to display information to the beneficiary, such as with the screen sharing, they can view their IAM statements, go line by line, explain any documents that they may have and how to prepare them. We have a directional sound bar. Again, it is ADA compliant as far as providing optimal sound for the beneficiary, and a accessibility keyboard. And this is designed for someone who is visually impaired to be able to see the buttons and features there. We also have a secure scanning and printing. The TSC employee who is helping the beneficiary remotely will be able to print documents and send them straight to that printer to allow the beneficiary to receive them real time. The scanning option there is in case we need documentation from the beneficiary, they can securely scan a photo ID, a tribal ID in order to verify and allow us to update their account information through this interactive screen.
Thank you, Ray. And so this slide, what we're going to do, or what I'm going to do, is explain where we're at now as far as the kiosk. So I am actually the contracting officer representative for this particular contract. So let's just dive right in. So where we're at right now is that the kiosk is, the booth is actually being assembled. What you saw in the slides was pretty much kind of like a mock-up. And so after that mock-up, we've provided some final instructions. So right now we're pretty much wrapping up the assembly of that first prototype. And so now what the contractors are working on is they're finishing up on working on that interface where that allows you to chat with the beneficiaries, to chat with the BTFA agent. So that's what they're working on right now. So what is the next step what's going to happen after. So what's going to happen is that we're going to have to test the system, make sure that it's working properly. And then also the contractors will be providing user manuals and training material for us to be able to use the kiosk, as well as to train the BTFA agents on the kiosk. And then we also have to ensure that the kiosk meets the ADA and 508 compliance, like Ray said. And what we're planning and anticipating is that we are wanting to send this prototype to our first location, which is going to be at the Fort Peck agency. And we are anticipating that this will happen in mid-May.
Correct. So we've been working with the Fort Peck agency to establish a location to put this beneficiary kiosk, as well as we will shortly thereafter roll out 3 additional locations within the next year. We're very excited to get this project going. Thank you, Justin.
Thank you. And again, if you have any questions regarding the kiosk, or if you have any questions regarding BTFA and field operations and what we do, you see our contact information there, particularly our email. So reach out to us if you have any questions or you want to follow up. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ray and Justin. That was very informative. Now I know what my brother did at work. Our next panel is the DOI Tribal Liaisons, and the session monitor is Kylie Morden.
Hello, everyone. My name is Kylie Morden. I am the Administrative Officer for Bureau of Indian Education. So I work out of DC headquarters under Director Dearman, and I serve as a point of contact for tribes when we're scheduling meetings, anything involved around education. So today we have a couple speakers that I'm going to introduce. And if you have any questions as they go along, feel free to drop those in the chat. The first speaker is Hillary Rennick. She is a Tribal Liaison Officer for Bureau of Ocean and Energy Management.
Hi, everyone. My name is Hillary Rennick, and I'm the Tribal Liaison Officer for the Bureau of Ocean Energy Management. And I have been the tribal contact here at the Bureau for about 3 years, and I am going to do the scary part and share my screen. So just the graph to the right just shows our offshore areas. Actually, the offshore parts of the United States altogether is larger than the land base in the United States. So our Atlantic region is offshore East Coast, our Gulf of Mexico, down in the bottom. Our Pacific office includes Hawaii, and then a very large area up in Alaska. So BOEM has a couple different projects that we work on. Most recently, the traditional ecological knowledge component, where we're trying to work with tribal nations using tribal knowledge to make better decisions. And so the poster to the right is just a poster of some projects that we've had with Alaska Native tribes on the North Slope. And it's a little bit backwards, meaning that the light blue is the land and the darker is the ocean. And so this is a project where we worked with the Nupiat peoples on the North Slope, looking at where they go and fish, right? Where they're getting their whales, where they're getting their walruses, and then working with our team to make sure that we don't hinder anything that they're trying to do. So here's just the land claims, right? The treaty sessions through time, showing of just the east to the west, right? The settlement of the United States. And so we work with tribal nations, many of them of which are removed. And so, for instance, I work quite often with the Delaware tribes, which were historically in the New York, New Jersey area. And so, again, just different maps. We have a lot of scientists in our bureau, so lots of maps showing just different versions of tribal people through time. Of course, our cultural boundaries do not follow political boundaries. And so where we work, even though we're offshore, we do work with tribal nations onshore. And so the graph to the right is an example. It's the Martha's Vineyard area off of Massachusetts, and it just shows the 12,000-year-old coastline. And so we are in active tribal engagement with East Coast tribes, primarily the Wampanoag tribes, that have a close affinity to the landscape and the resources that are not now inundated. And these areas that are inundated are our lease areas. So just trying to figure out more information from the tribal nations so that we make, again, better decisions. So here's an example of, this is again, the Martha's Vineyard area, and taking what we know with our vessel traffic, working with our sister bureaus, our other agencies in the States, taking that information, and then also taking the tribal information and putting it together. So like in this example, Martha's Vineyard, in the Wampanoag story, Moshe is their giant, and he was married to a little person. So just the joining of what that means in geography, landscape, and how it's tied to the way we look at the world. And so this is like our newest brochure showing the different career opportunities that we have at BOEM. Again, offshore, so lots of science, right? And so definitely a really dynamic, moving, really interesting work life here. And so, anything from archaeologists, off marine archaeology, to social science, oceanographers, physical scientists. We are a smaller bureau under Interior, so we only have about 600 people, but lots of science, lots of busy work, and hopefully someplace that you guys might be interested in working. And I will let John take over, or I guess more Kylie, if you could introduce him. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much for your presentation. That was really informative. Our next tribal liaison is John Sullivan. He is an archaeologist for the Bureau of Land Management. Whenever you're ready, John.
Good afternoon, everyone. I work for the BLM Eastern States Office. I'm stationed in the Southeastern District Office. Eastern States is a lot different than the Western BLM, is that we don't have a whole lot of surface property. We've got some large tracts and they're scattered all over the place, Northeast and Southeast. And like Hillary with BOEM, I tend to work more with removed tribes here in the Southeast. I'm program lead for Eastern States, so I do a lot of the tribal consultation when it's necessary and when it comes out of headquarters, which can be a whole lot of fun. But we do have a few tribes in the South that are still in their homeland, greatly reduced. In the Northeast, a lot of the Ottawa and Chippewa bands are still up there as well. So even though we don't have land surface, we do have the mineral extraction. So we have a lot of gas, oil, precious metals. We even have a gold mine in Carolinas that we manage the minerals. And whether it's under private or state or other federal agencies, especially for the gas coal, we do the permitting for extraction. And that's where the consultation comes in, except for the other federal agencies, which just make sure that the companies know who they have to deal with on those federal agencies in terms of archaeology and in tribal relationships they have. And some have better than others. Personally, I have a lot of fun with my job. I get to travel all over the place. I've worked with tribes, 20 years now, and that was starting in grad school. While I was in grad school is when NACPR came around, and that was one of my first dealings with tribes while I was at university. So it's a lot of fun. And I guess the next thing is just questions. If you have them, ask them.
Hello, everyone. Here we have a couple questions for you all. What current issues and trends in the field of a tribal liaison officer should we know about or be aware of?
One of the biggest issues, especially for the removed tribes, is access to native plants. The biggest one here in the Southeast is river cane. And one of the projects that I'm working with a couple of tribes on is trying to reestablish some river cane on some of a couple of our tracks that we have, along with a few other plants that are native that are in danger being through farming, forestry, and whatnot.
Yeah, and then for me, so being a tribal liaison is working with people, right? So people are dynamic, they're moving, and so just not to make assumptions, right? So I'm working with some tribes that are pro-development, other ones are cautionary, and so as a tribal liaison, I'm more of a neutral, right? So I'm helping to give the information. I'm not a decision maker per se. I talk to tribes. I work with tribal nations and try to help them and bring the appropriate folks to the table that could answer their questions.
Okay, what do you all like most or least about the work that you do?
Paperwork, having to fill out reports and write letters and all that. I'd just soon pick up a phone and call, which I do, but bosses like to see paperwork. The fun part is, like Hillary just said, talking to the individuals and the nation as a whole. It's very rewarding and a lot of fun. For the most part, they understand the position that the liaisons are in. We are not the decision makers, and we do our best to make sure that the managers know what the issues are with them.
Yeah, and for me, I really enjoy, so I work with a lot of scientists. So like my undergrad I have undergrad in cultural anthropology and a graduate degree in natural resource management and a law degree with emphasis on coastal and ocean law. And so in my position, I'm also a part of the DOI Bear team, the fire team. So during fire season, I do get to go out to Indian country and primarily at the request of tribal nations through the Bureau of Indian Affairs, I'm able to go and assist with tribal consultation on cultural resource and natural resources. So like through Interior as a whole, just like tribal nations are dynamic and moving, just like every individual might have several different interests, I found a niche into being able to not only be in DC and like be part of the policy process and being at the liaison at that level where I bring tribal nations to decision makers, but I'm able also to do applied science out into the regions. And just to be able to go out on the land at the request of a tribal nation, for me is super rewarding. And I look forward to it every year.
Awesome. Another question. For those who might want to become a tribal liaison officer, what do you feel are some important qualities or skills for a person to have to be successful in this position?
Good communication skills is one thing. If you're going through, obviously college, cultural anthropology and anthropology in general. Plus, it doesn't hurt to know a little bit of everything else. Native issues run from, not just plants, but with plants, it's botany, and other sciences that all tie together.
I'm Pomon Paiute. I'm enrolled in Northern California with the tribal nation. And I do have a background in anthropology, but I really think listening is super important and being objective, right? So like I go in, when I work with the tribal nation, or I'm asked to call, right? We have some decisions at a high level. So I'll be asked to call a tribal nation, the leadership. I don't assume that I know anything, right? I might do like a background, right? Especially if I'm on assignment and just to find out who people are, but I'm not going in with the perspective that I know everything about them, right? They're going to tell me who they are. And so just really emphasizing that relationship building, and that, all of us that work for Interior, we're stepping into the shoes of a lot of the government, right? And so even though I am an individual, understanding that what I represent when I work with tribal nations, that in many cases, there's 400 years of relationship that might not be so good. And so it's my job to make that better, right? And so all I could do is try to do a good job, try to convey that message of we're listening. Here's the issues. I'm going to share my notes. I have nothing up my sleeve. And how could I help you, with whatever project? So it's like an open mind listening, just like any other relationship, right? If you people in your family or coworkers, just to be open to learning.
And have a lot of patience with the tribal nations as well, because as Hilda just said, there's not been a lot of goodwill between government employees and the nations in the past. So be patient. When you ask questions and you expect a response, you got to build that relationship even before they begin to trust you.
And I think that sort of leads me to this next and final question. And I think you all sort of spoke to this a little bit, but I will share the question anyway. And how are partnerships established and developed between your bureaus and the tribes? And how do the tribes benefit from these partnerships?
For BLM, it's been slow, partly because we haven't really had a good mechanism regulation wise to be able to do it like Forest Service. Forest Service tends to have better relationships partner wise, at least a lot of the ones here in the South, than other federal agencies. I'm working on a couple. Some of it has to do with mostly the reestablishing plants so that they can come collect. For us, it's a little bit hard because we don't have a large land base, and most tribes are removed, so they have to come to visit. What I would say for the tribes is that they can come collect plants, or they can benefit from the partnership by being able to collect plants, be back on their homeland turf, land, and the connection that they used to have, they can build back up. That's one of the biggest issues for me.
Yeah, and for me, like, so partnerships. So BUM, we're offshore, right? So we're in federal waters. So all of our lands are submerged, right? So but we, in our science, we have a science, very active science, lots of scientists, right? But we have environmental studies. And so that's where we do our partnerships primarily. And then also too, looking at, because we do have some staff that are just out of grad school, right? So they have new ideas, and then, looking at the issues such as climate change. So now realizing that it is fundamental that we include tribes. The tribes aren't going anywhere, right? So that we need students, we need minds that think outside the box. We need people to push us to do better. So like that's where I think partnerships are probably most useful, like looking at it prospectively, right? Getting folks, getting tribal members on vessels to go out and help do surveys, getting that insight of that area of the many people that live near our coast, right? We have a lot of oceanographers on staff, but definitely people that have lived next to the seashore for hundreds of years, if not thousands, definitely have that knowledge of their landscape. Or I would argue are oceanographers, whether or not they have a degree or not, because you know, just looking at the rhythms of nature, what mammals are there, to me, like that's truly like a partnership.
Thank you, Kylie, Hillary, and John. That was really great to hear about, and hopefully we'll be able to connect and have some partnerships with our TCUs also. Right now, we are coming up on ending early, and I wanted to remind you that there's a survey to complete so that we can improve upon what we are doing for the next event. And also we will be showing the photo gallery after we are finished here today. Up next, Director Jerry Gidner will be giving the closing remarks. He is from the Bureau of Trust Funds Administration. Thank you and welcome, Mr. Gidner.
Great, thanks, Kat. I'm really pleased to be here to give some closing comments, and I was able to sit in and listen to a lot of this over the past couple of days. And I just do want to reiterate, you know, at DOI, there is a space and a place for you, and we really need you. So just before we close, I want to share a few highlights of my career and some of the amazing opportunities that I've had at the Department of the Interior. And hopefully that will just help to illustrate how there is a space and place for you here. So I'm Jerry Gidner. I'm a citizen of the Sault Ste. Marie tribe of Chippewa Indians. I'm the director of the Bureau of Trust Funds Administration. Justin and Ray told what we do, but if you were not for that, you know, we manage the trust funds that are generated from trust lands, from activities like leases for oil and gas, agriculture, forestry, etc. And I really want to thank Justin and Ray for their overview and presentation about our kiosks. And in the category of shameless promotion, before I move on, BTFA does plan to be advertising a number of positions, entry-level positions, over the next several months, beginning this month probably. Most of those would be accounting technician positions, and most of those will be remote. So if that's something that's interesting to you, we hope that you will keep your eye on USA Jobs and take a look at that. So many years ago, I joined the Bureau of Indian Affairs from the Environmental Protection Agency as an environmental scientist. And in the first year, I was able to organize an effort to remediate more than 150 leaking underground storage tank sites at BIA facilities across the country. And each of these sites posed a health hazard to Native Americans due to oil or gas contamination. Some were right next to school buildings, but we got them all cleaned up, and I was totally hooked. And I could realize that I realized that I could make a positive on the ground difference in Indian country. So that was almost 25 years ago, and I've never been disappointed since. I've had the privilege of visiting more than 100 tribal reservations and communities. I've enjoyed the hospitality of dozens of tribal leaders. I've huffed and puffed at 7,000 feet at the top of White Mountain Apache Reservation. I've ridden a pony to the bottom of the Grand Canyon at Havasupai. I've testified before Congress. I had lunch with the President of the United States. I've represented the United States at international meetings in Ottawa, Canada, and Lima, Peru. And I've just worked with some of the most dedicated, brilliant, and talented colleagues many of them Native Americans. And together we have made some really good things happen for Native America. So DOI has 11 bureaus, many of them you've heard from over the past 2 days, but every one of them needs more dedicated, brilliant, and talented Native Americans to bring indigenous perspectives and knowledge and cultures to the business of managing our nation's natural resources. And as you've also heard, managing the department of this size doesn't just involve natural resources management, the biologists and the hydrologists. We need accountants and budget officers and contract officers. We need IT professionals and law enforcement professionals. And the range of careers that work at DOI is huge. Our geographic range is huge. We have an office in every state, and more of our jobs can be done remotely. But most importantly, maybe the positive impact of our work is even larger. So I would just say at DOI, there very likely is a space and a place for you. We hope you'll see us as an employee of choice as you decide where to apply after school. So thank you very much. If we have time for questions, I'm certainly willing to answer some questions. So thank you very much, Kat, and thank all of you for participating and everybody who helped organize this great event.